there, this is Nova. Welcome to the Singer Featherweight Tip of the Month for October 2017. This month we're going to be discussing winding a bobbin and bobbins that do not wind evenly. You can see here on this bobbin, see how it's loaded incorrectly? We're going to be talking about that and about how to correct that this month. So if you wind a bobbin like this, it should function pretty well, but the difficulty is going to be that you're not going to be able to get much thread on that because this side of that is going to fill up very quickly and you're not going to have any thread over here. You might have some other issues with this just because of how uneven this particular one is, but we're going to show you how to correct that this month. There were 3 different styles of tensioners to wind a bobbin. You have to use this tensioner, one of the tensioners. There were 3 different styles of tensioners through the years. This is the original style. It's often referred to as a school bell style. The decision was made to move the tensioner for winding a bobbin from the front of the machine to the top of the machine where we commonly see it due to the development of the card table that the Singer Featherweight drops into. The tensioner will not work if it's on the front of the machine like this because the machine actually fits down into the table. So this would be down inside the machine. So a temporary part was designed to retrofit machines that were already produced, like this one. By the way, this is my 1934 Chicago Century of Progress machine. Really proud of the history behind this machine. It's a wonderful piece of history for us. A temporary part was designed to retrofit machines that were already produced, like this one. So if whoever the original owner of this machine was, if she wanted to be able to use this machine in a card table, she would have had to have exchanged this part out. And then also they had many of these beds cast by the time the decision was made, and they weren't going to just discard those. So they had to come up with a temporary part to be used so the new card tables would work with the machines that were already produced and with the castings, the bodies that were already produced, to get this tensioner from the front of the machine up to the top. So this is the part that was designed, and you can see how it would screw there where that screw is for that school bell tensioner, and it would just simply move the tensioner from the front of the machine up to the top. Now this is the style that looks more like what we are accustomed to, but you can see it's a very different part. Most of the machines, like the one that we started the video with, have the tensioners that screw into the bed here. This was just a temporary part to get this up on top, to retrofit this style of machine and use up the beds that they had cast. So if you have a machine that has this school bell type tensioner or this temporary part, please be very, very careful with it. The only place we can get these is off of parts machines, so you don't want to damage these. You want to be very careful with them. It's very difficult to find those replacement parts. The latest style of bobbin tensioner, when you're winding a bobbin, the bobbin tensioner was mounted on the top of the machine, on the bed, on the machine's bed top. It's by far the most common, and it attaches and adjusts by this large screw right here. That holds it on, and that's how you adjust it. So if you have a bobbin like we were looking at the beginning of the video that is winding unevenly, it's like winding lopsided, you're going to need to loosen this screw a little bit and adjust that this tensioner. It has a slot in it so it adjusts from the right to the left. If you have a bobbin that is loading primarily on the right side, you need to loosen that screw and adjust the tensioner to the left. So if the bobbin is filling on the right side, you need to move the tensioner from the right to the left. If the bobbin is filling on the left side, you need to do just the opposite. You would loosen this and you would move the tensioner to the right to adjust that so it would load evenly. You'll have to play with it a little bit and get it to balance out. When you have the tensioner adjusted just where you'd like it, simply tighten down that screw real snugly so that it stays put. Other difficulties with winding bobbins, like the spool bouncing around when you're using a cross-wound spool of thread. And what does that mean? That means a cross-wound spool or a cone, you can see how the thread crosses back and forth on itself. It's the most common way of winding thread. Well, it's not the traditional way of winding thread, but it's the most common way of winding thread today. That problem can be alleviated by using a thread stand. The thread stand also allows you to use cones with your Singer Featherweight. I love using these Superior Masterpiece cones. That's what I sew with most of the time, and they just sit there. This thread stand fits, this little one here, it just fits in the oil hole of your featherweight. It does not hurt anything. It does not screw in. It doesn't hurt anything. It just sticks in there. And it allows you to use cones without having to carry that heavy cast iron piece that fits behind the machine. And it's a very handy tool. Of course, use only high quality undamaged bobbins on your Singer Featherweight to avoid damage to the bobbin case. Now, the next thing that we're going to look at is actually winding a bobbin. Okay, to wind a bobbin, if you are using the thread stand, you're going to thread the thread through the hole in the thread stand. You're going to come here through this thread guide. You're going to come around the bobbin winder tensioner, just not completely around, but just down from the bottom and back up. Then you're going to thread the thread through one of the holes in the bobbin. You're going to go from the center of the bobbin out through one of the holes. So you're threading from the center, from the right to the left. You're going to disengage the stop motion knob. This silver knob here inside the large hand wheel is called the stop motion knob, and it should disengage the motion of the machine. So you grasp the stop motion knob and you're going to rotate that silver knob toward you. When you rotate it, you'll hear it click, you'll feel it. It doesn't rotate very far. When you hear it click, that's when it's in the correct position. Then you're going to engage the bobbin winder wheel with the belt. You're going to put that down so it's making contact with the belt, and now you're ready to wind a bobbin. You're going to hold the thread very close to the bobbin itself and step on the foot controller, and it begins winding the bobbin. And it should wind nice and evenly. And again, you may have to play with that screw down there on that bobbin winder tensioner just a little bit to get it where you really want it, so that it winds that bobbin nice and evenly. This one's doing great now that I've worked on it. By the way, this is a machine that's come into my shop recently. It's the latest one that I've restored the motor on. This particular machine, the motor wasn't running at all, and I was able to restore the motor. Please, if you have a machine that the motor is not running on, let me take a look at it before you let someone replace it. So now this bobbin is wound correctly, and I was kind of sidetracked mentally a while ago and didn't think to mention to you because I do it so automatically. But as it was winding, I was holding it very close here and the thread just broke off. You want that to happen rather than leaving a tail, because if you leave a tail out here, that's going to drag on the inside of your bobbin case, and that can cause you some tension problems. So this way it's a nice, clean, even break. One thing that you do need to watch when you're winding a bobbin is you want to make sure that you do not wind the thread anywhere from edge to edge, anywhere it needs to be within those edges of that bobbin, so that you don't have a tension issue there. If it's overwound, then it'll drag inside the bobbin case. So you want to make sure that you take care of that and watch that very carefully as you're winding so you don't overload it. One additional thing to point out to you, winding a bobbin is not a race. You don't need to see how fast it can go. A lot of problems are caused that I see with my students at the end of my workshops, and they are just winding a bobbin at breakneck speed. It's not a race. If you'll slow down just a little bit, that should help you avoid some problems. In a future tip, we will be looking at some other things about winding bobbins, about this bobbin winder arm, if that flops up and down on you, why that's the case, and what to do about it. I hope you've enjoyed this month's tip. Of course, you can find all of the products that we've talked about, the thread stand, the thread in the wonderful Superior Masterpiece cones. I also carried in spools, but I love the cones. And of course, high quality bobbins in my online shop at novamontgomery.com. Happy stitching!